Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Jasmy. Now, I have been covering it more and more. I've been busy over the last few days. That's why you've probably seen a little bit more posts, a little bit inconsistent, but we are so back, and so is Jasmy, right? So it's been a while, right? If I actually go scroll down and check, I actually do believe it's probably been a week to 2 weeks since I covered this, right? 10 days ago, right? 10 days ago. And ladies and gentlemen, right, I have some very good news. I do expect a nice burst to the upside. Listen, when we go and look at something like the technical analysis, when we take away all the noise, which is all the wicks, right, and just look purely at the candles, we can see that we have been getting squished. So we have this bottom over here of practically 1 cent, right? This is the bottom black candle. And then the top black candle is 1.6 cents. We can see this, right? And then we sold off for 2 months. We closed at 1.3 cents. And then we can see actually that, you know, in the month of July, we closed at 1.5 cents. So our tops, right? Our tops over here, the blue, were getting lower. They were getting lower, but then our bottoms were getting higher, meaning we have to choose a direction where we want to go. That's just how the markets work. When they start getting squished from both sides, they have to choose where they want to go. And we can see, ladies and gentlemen, Jasmy is looking to pretty much go up and burst up. Okay. It is looking very healthy. It is looking very solid. And I do believe there's going to be some type of huge momentum coming to the upside very soon. You know what's funny? This looks pretty much exactly like Caspa. Okay, this pretty much looks exactly like Caspa. And I want you to pay attention real close right now. Okay, we have this bottom, we have this higher bottom, we have this higher bottom, and then we have this higher bottom, right? So you can see the structure is kind of like this. We are also below a massive resistance right now. We are also below a massive resistance. We're below it as of right now. We have this top, and technically this top closed a little bit lower. And this is only going to be the key difference between this and Caspa. But you can see the bottoms are consistently rising, and we kind of have a top and a little bit higher top. Now, if I show you Caspa, this thing is almost near identical. Look at it. Look at it. We are below a massive support and resistance, right? We are below massive support and resistance. We have we have the floor, we have a higher floor, we have a higher floor, and then we have a higher floor. So it's literally almost near identical. And then we have the roof. And then in Jasmy's case, it technically closed a little bit higher, right? But it is practically the same structure. And people tell me that the markets are not rigged. No, buddy, the you cannot have a near identical structure to a totally different crypto and then tell me the markets are not rigged. They are 100% rigged, which is why I believe, ladies and gentlemen, something like Jasmy is going to absolutely explode this cycle. And I do believe the explosion is coming soon, right? We are getting squished from the bottoms. We are getting squished from the tops. We must decide, and I do believe we are going to decide to the upside. We are going to be looking to be bursting past this 1.8 cent area to then reclaim this territory, because right now it's resistance. It means, when you're below a big resistance, that means we are in hell. Okay, we are in hell. But you can see, the last time Jasmy really went past a big resistance, it was slow, and then it bursted until it wasn't, right? So the same thing. I expect some nice heavy momentum with Jasmy very soon. Something like Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen, has been looking fantastic. It has recovered very nicely, very well. We are officially back above a huge support and resistance. And I kind of expect for us to close this way, right? I really do. So we are going to be back above a huge support and resistance. And something like Bitcoin dominance, right? It's kind of just lingering around. It is looking to potentially go lower than 60%, but it's kind of stalling out. But even if we don't go lower, right, ladies and gentlemen, even if we do not go lower, then I do expect a lot more money coming into this cycle before it pours into altcoins. If Bitcoin dominance starts going lower over the next week or two, then expect all the altcoins, including Jasmy, to start pumping. Okay, it is as simple as that. Now, where is Jasmy ultimately going to go? generally speaking, key points. We're not talking about the super micro points. Where is Jasmy ultimately going to go when it comes to key points? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that there is a lot of support and resistance kind of around this zone over here, right? Kind of around this zone over here. Let's just say, you know, 3.8 cents to 4.2, generally speaking, right? Generally speaking, we can see the structure, right? Multiple weeks of resistance here, multiple weeks here. We will burst a little bit past this point, but we have multiple here. So the next big zone is practically looking like a 2.5x, right? 2.5x before we potentially see a little bit of resistance. But when we do see this resistance, I would not be surprised if we kind of go sideways a little bit, sell off a little bit, right? Kind of go up diagonally and then continue to move higher and higher, because this is going to be the next zone we're going to have to flip after we flip pretty much 1.8 cents, right? We're going to have to be looking to flip pretty much, let's just say 4 cents, turn it from a resistance to a support. And then from a support, that's when we're going to start getting the real gains. When we go and look at Jasmy, right? When we go look at Jasmy, we are currently ranked 96 in the world. We are 96 out of 9,455. So that's a very good thing, right? We're pretty much sitting around the 1%. We are actually technically right outside the 1%. We're like 1.01%, 1.02%. But don't worry, people. I do believe we'll get in the top 1%. We see we're currently at 833 million market cap, 53 million in volume. And if we go and look at something like the holders, which I actually haven't looked at in a while, even though there's no chart, which usually is, we're currently at 95,089 holders. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, no, things are looking good. Things are looking solid. If we go and look at the volume in the last month or so, this is actually very important to note. Okay, pay attention to volume. We can see the volume is around, low to mid 30s, mid 20s consistently, right? So from like mid 20s to mid 30s consistently. Then even when we sold off a little bit, still mid 30s for the most part, a little bit of mid 20s to high 20s. And then we can see we're just generally ranging. And now we got to mid 40s, then we're going to 50s, now we're going to 60s, right? And we can just see we're mid 50s to high, 50s. And pretty much we're doubling the volume. Now, why are we doubling the volume and prices around the same? It's because, ladies and gentlemen, it's preparing for a massive burst. Okay. When a volume starting to rise and even if the price is not moving, it is just a delayed indicator. Okay. I'm telling you, you will see Jasmy start to pump very heavily over the next, most likely, 2 weeks or so. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Let me know what you think of this crypto. Let me know what you think of this coin. Where do you think it's going to head this cycle? What is your personal target with a project and coin like this? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, a 10x is roughly 10x is roughly 8 billion market cap, 8.3 billion, right? Not the craziest thing in the world to achieve. It's really not that hard, especially considering we're going to be getting a lot more money this cycle. But yeah, that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.